So we go on with the session now. We hope, along with Taj Mahal, you take a lot of memories from us. It's just not been taking, maybe we have given you something to carry back. Thanks a lot. God bless you.
Yeah, now we move on to the last session, Traditions in All Our Affairs by Jane and Jim. No, we want your experience also. Because we want to know how you both practice traditions in your all your affairs.
Because everybody is suffering at home.
I'm Jane, I'm an alcoholic. And through the care, protection, and guidance of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been sober since May 1st of 1981, and for that I'm really grateful. I tend to get quite emotional, so please forgive me, but I am so grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous. The thing we have to remember here is that we're able to do something that no one else is able to do, and that is to help the alcoholic. We have been, Alcoholics Anonymous is the organization that has been the most successful in helping save lives from Alcoholics Anonymous, and we must take that responsibility seriously. The thing that I have seen here, which it hits me like a new thing, like I'm seeing it again for the first time. That's how I feel. And that is how much, or that it is really true that alcoholism is an illness. I see it. All of our experiences, the way we think, what we do, how we react, our self-centeredness, our problems, even the solution, but that all, we live in little Minnesota. You're in India, and it's all the same. The illness is the same. We went to a women's conference. What they talked about was exactly what we've done. The thinking and the action, it's definitely an illness. But what's the great news is that Alcoholics Anonymous has no boundaries either. That's the good news. And so that AA works everywhere, and I've seen that here. And I got to say something that's kind of harsh. Okay, and I've been known to do that, so. We can't afford to sit on the steps. We can't afford to sit on a 4th step. We can't afford to sit on an 8th or 9th step. We don't have that kind of luxury. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for the next guy. Work a step so that you have something to give to save a life. And I think if you can look at it that way, you'll be more willing to do the deal. People are dying from this thing. People are suffering from this thing, and we have a way out that it is my moral obligation. It is my whole life. It is the purpose I serve, is to give in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I would hope that that is your purpose too. That's what I got to say. Hopefully by some of the things that we've shared, you may not have seen that yet, but you're going to. And hopefully by getting to know the traditions, when these things come up, you'll better be able to handle it more so than we did in the States, because we didn't even have this when we first started out. So I hope we've served that purpose, that that our stoplights might be your yellow ones. Do you have stoplights? Yeah. Okay.
Ignore them. Suggestions.
Well, I guess maybe I should qualify myself as an alcoholic, because I'm definitely an alcoholic. I started drinking when I was 14 years old, and I sobered up when I was 27. I came to AA when I was 25. And the example that I used, and I said it last night, but the example I used that shows the powerlessness of my illness was I was drinking on a bottle of vodka. I kept it in my refrigerator door. I got up, I opened up my refrigerator door, and I pulled out the bottle of vodka. And I fell to the linoleum floor, and I flapped like a fish out of water on my floor. And I knew I was doing that because I don't know it was out of body or what, but I was looking down on me seeing that. So I was fully aware that I was flapping like a fish, you know. And I suppose a doctor probably would call that some kind of seizure. Normal drinkers don't do that, you know. And what I did was I got up and I made the next drink. And that's a powerlessness that only another alcoholic understands. Nobody, no one, no professional, no minister, no parent, only another alcoholic understands that powerlessness. That's why we have to hang together, you know. That's just the symptom to my illness. My drinking is like a cough to a cold. It's only a symptom. This fine working mind of mine, or alcoholic, this fine-tuned machinery, how I rationalized and justified that was that it never happened. And the reason it never happened is because nobody saw it. And as long as nobody else saw it, it didn't really happen. And that's how I did that a long time in AA. That wasn't just about the seizure. That is how my perspective was, if I could get you to buy it, maybe I could too. Or if you didn't see it, maybe it didn't really happen. And so there's a reason why AA stresses a rigorous honesty, not just with other people, but mostly with ourselves. And that had to happen for me. So that's what the steps does for me. In the doctor's opinion in the big book, it talks about how we need the psychic change. And what that means is I've got to change my mind about a few things, which is not always easy. And I had to change my mind about the fact that I didn't have all the answers, and because I was a know-it-all, and I was arrogant, which is why I could identify Julie, because I was arrogant, you know. And I just thought, and I thought that if I thought it, it was true. It's really weird. I thought that if I thought something, it was the truth. I didn't know it wasn't the truth. If I thought it, it was the truth. And through AA, it got me out of self enough to realize that my mind had to change to a different perspective. And it had to be one that wasn't selfish. And that's what the steps of AA has helped me to do. In working through the steps, I did the best I could with what I had. And I think the most important thing in working the steps is the fact that we're sincere. And if we're sincere in working the steps, it's going to happen. It's going to happen no matter what. You are going to get everything that the book says if we're sincere. The only thing I need to do is to be sincere and to try and live a life that pleases my God. And if I do those two things, my heart opens. I actually love people. I mean, I didn't think that I was capable of loving people. My action showed me that I was incapable of loving another human being. I was out to use them, to dominate them, to lean on them, to do whatever I could for my own security, because security was a big deal for me. So through the steps, a spiritual life happened. And for me, the demonstration of a spiritual life is how I treat people. So the traditions, it's really hard to serve something that you don't respect. And what the traditions do, by my following traditions, I am having respect for Alcoholics Anonymous that it deserves. And that is my personal responsibility to do. In following traditions, sometimes, even within the AA community, it means that you have to stand alone. And Jody was talking about that, about some of the AA members didn't back her up and putting an AA meeting on. And sometimes when you have to stand on principle, it may mean you have to stand alone. And I am willing to do that. I have been willing to do that my whole sobriety. And I've taken a lot of pot shots. But I'll tell you, I can put my head on my pillow at night and know that I have done the right thing. There's something powerful when you've done the right thing in the service to others without thought of yourself. There's something powerful. It's spiritual. I think it's what it's all about. That's a little serious, but so anyway, I think that's all good stuff. We've been making fun of divorces, okay? And Julie's going to be divorced twice. Jody's been divorced once. Jim's been divorced once. And I've been divorced twice. So how many marriages is that between us? you can go say that. Seven. Say that to him. So you can tell that we need to learn how to get along with people. And I would like to talk about what my life is like today, which is a little hard for me to do. I live a life I don't deserve. And I've got it from Alcoholics Anonymous. My first husband was from the hills of Harlow, Puerto Rico. And he didn't speak any English. And I didn't speak any Spanish. I knew que pasa meant what's happening. And I knew hola was hi. And that was it. And we ended up getting married. I remember when the Justice of the Peace pronounced as husband and wife, I bawled like a baby because I just knew I made the biggest mistake of my life. But I couldn't tell anybody that. I couldn't admit I was wrong until I was in Alcoholics Anonymous and did a 4-step. Absolutely unable to admit wrong. And so go ahead. My second husband, I was 13th step into AA. I hope you all know what that means. But it means like you talk about the steps and go to bed. That's 13th stepping. And that's how I got into AA. I came into AA 2 years before I sobered up. And they say in AA, don't do anything the first year you're sober. So I married this guy May 1st, 1982. Exactly on my first year anniversary date. So nobody could say anything. I did stuff right underneath the wire. Just so I could still have my way. Well, obviously, that marriage was doomed to fail, too. So then I met Jim. Jim and I have known each other. I sobered up May 1st, and he sobered up May 3rd. So I have more sobriety than he does. That should be sure you interpret it that. And we had been friends. We met in AA, and we struck up a friendship. We were just friends. It was no big deal. I was married to number 2, and Jim had gone off and got married, and I divorced and he divorced. But we were always friends in AA, and we were friends. That's all we were. It was nothing other than that. And he that's all it was. It wasn't anything more than that. And One night he was going to pick me up we were going to go out to dinner or something, and it was no big deal. We may have done that maybe once a year, just because we were friends. And he pulled up in front of my house, and my 14-year-old said, and I had this need to make this announcement, and the announcement was, "This is not a date." I don't know why I said that, because I wasn't even thinking about it. And my 14-year-old said, "Well, it sure looks like a date to me." And I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing? It's Jim Samuelson, you know? Go ahead. Anyway, to make a long story short, we were 8 years sober at that time, and I started really questioning about being on a date with Jim Samuelson. It was like, what am I doing? It's Jim Samuelson. And all this head chatter started. Oh my God, oh my God. And I talked to my sponsor about it, and she said, "Jane, it seems as if your feelings towards him is changing." I said nothing. I did not say, "Oh." I didn't say, "You think so?" I said nothing. I told no one. I couldn't believe it, you know. Well, so we dated, and we got married when we were 10 years sober. So we dated for about 2 years. And I think God knew before I knew, even before Jim knew, that we were meant to be lifelong companions. What we did, before I am Jim's wife, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before Jim is my husband, he is a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. That comes first. And what we have between us, which has been so successful, is the traditions of AA. We took the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous and wrote them as vows, so that it's not a Jim Jane thing. It's Jim, the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Jane. And that's what we have between us. And you cannot fail. You cannot fail doing that. So that means that our marriage is based on principles. And it's principles that we understand. I really don't want to get much into that. What we'll do is we'll make sure that the group gets a copy of our wedding vows so that you can see what I'm talking about. Anyway, that is one of the biggest gifts of my sobriety, is Jim Samuelson. And to think that I would say that is a miracle. You can translate that.
Okay.
So he is one of my blessings, and you can see why I picked the women I did to come with me. One of the things that I feel obligated about is that the women I sponsor are members of AA in their own right. They earn their own seat, and they earn my respect. And it's not a matter of who their sponsor is. It's what they do as members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have a lot of respect for these two, or they wouldn't be here. I met you guys before I met you guys, because Jim would come home and tell me the stories. And so it is my privilege to be able to meet you and to be able to be here with you. One of the things I never want to have happen is to become spoiled by my many blessings. So I must give credit where credit is due, and that's to God, to Alcoholics Anonymous, to sponsorship, and I probably shouldn't. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I want to include Jim Samuelson. We are taking home much more than what we've given here. And we will take your stories and your experience back to our home group, and our sobriety will be enriched because of it. We will have a new commitment, a new dedication, and a new sense of responsibility because we've been here. And I'd also like to take this time to thank Krishna.
కృష్ణమూర్తి గారికి ధన్యవాదాలండి.
And I think we all can agree that he has a way about him. So I really don't have anything else to say except I'm so appreciative to be here. I'm grateful to you all, and it is so good to be sober. Thank you.
ఎవరుగా ఏంటంటే ఆడేమన్నా అంటే కృష్ణమూర్తి గారు ధన్యవాదాలు చెప్పి ఏంటో ఒకలా ఉంటాడు కదా ఈ మనిషి, మీకు అందరికీ అనిపించిందా అన్నాడు. మాకు తెలుసండి చాలామంది మాలో చాలా మందికి స్పాన్సర్ అండి అని చెప్పాం కృష్ణ గారి గురించి. చివరికి ఏమన్నారంటే చాలా ధన్యవాదాలు, మీతో గడిపిన టైం చాలా బాగా గడిచింది.
So every good thing must come to an end. It's been a wonderful, non-weekend weekend. Jane, Julie, Jody, last but not the least, my sponsor Jim. Thank you very much for taking the time. In fact, I must confess, actually what I was planning is, they came here for the International Women's Convention. Afterwards, I was planning for a sightseeing trip across the country, then maybe one day with us. Because they're coming from such a far distance, what I was planning was that let me show them as much of the country as possible. 1 week he kept quiet. Second week, Krishna, we're coming in an AA trip, AA first, everything else next. I shut up. So that made me think how best we can use their presence in our midst. So I did the best I can. The rest they did. I didn't do anything. I just facilitated their coming here. Beyond that, it's God's will. So I'm absolutely indebted to all of you, because many of us would not be able to make the trip across the Atlantic or come there. Quite a few of us may be fortunate enough to be able to visit you there and see the groups. Not many of us would be able to come. So that you close that gap for them. Thank you very much. And let us all give them a big hand. And and they've got again, still it is not stopping here. It is traveling to the cousin state. sister, they're crossing the, see, now you have the privilege of seeing the Andhra Pradesh. Now we are seeing Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. You have seen the birth of a new state, right?